And then they'll give me an indication, but it's always live before the indication. So I kind of ramble as we go here. Let's see what we got. All right. We are officially live, probably have been for a couple seconds. As you all can see, wonderful guest today, John Butterfield. He's giving you a toast with his coffee. How are you doing, sir?
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Awesome. So great to have you here. Of course, some of the long-term fans know that John is probably my favorite designer. Many games out there. The first game I ever tried from John is Ambush, and just a wonderful game I fell in love with. And then I always knew in the background that it had a predecessor, which was, and I'm going to get the name wrong, I know, because your new one, it's the Voyages of Pandora, BSM Pandora. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. The Voyages of the BSM Pandora was the old game.
And yeah. I'd looked around for it once, but it was, it's one of those unicorns that some people have, some people are paying a lot of money for, but that leads us right into Away Team, which is the Voyages of Pandora from GMT, and the explosion on P500 when it came up on GMT. And that is what I wanted to talk to John about. John, can you talk about what's going on with Away Team, what it is? And we'll call out the fans here in a little bit too, but I figured we could start with you kind of introducing Away Team.
Sure, I'd love to. Good morning, everybody. It's Saturday morning here in California, and it's raining unexpected. Well, not unusually. It's been raining for like weeks, which it hasn't done in years. So
wow,
that's good. Except for the 49ers, they're playing here today. So
got it.
Yeah, looking forward to that. So Away Team is on the P500 on GMT, and it is inspired by a game I did years ago at SPI in the old Aries magazine called Voyage of the BSM Pandora, as Chief mentioned. That stood for Biological Survey Mission, I believe. It itself was a sequel of actually a prequel. There was a game earlier in Aries called The Wreck of the Pandora, which it was in turn inspired by the movie Alien, which we had seen. And so Jim Dunnigan designed a game called Wreck of the Pandora, which was about, you're in a spaceship that's been, invaded, infected by an alien life form or forms. In the game, it's somewhat variable what the alien is. So anyway, in that game, you were in the confines of a spaceship that was dying. So anyway, that game was well received. So we wanted to do something else with it. So I had the idea of doing more of an adventure game about the Pandora before its demise, where it was moving from planet to planet in distant star systems, exploring, seeking extraterrestrial life. And it was a little game in the sense that it was in a magazine and had a little map, and it had about 8 or 12 pages of narrative paragraphs, choose your own adventure kind of approach, which had existed like in a paperback book format, that kind of concept of storytelling, but never in a game. So it was the first time that kind of logic tree paragraph approach had been applied to a game design. And so we used that to tell you all these little stories that what happened to Pandora as you move from planet to planet and on a planet from environment to environment. That was well received. And the reason it might seem like, what did you say, a unicorn, is that SPI never published a boxed version of the game.
Right.
Because it was, later in SPI's life, and they just hadn't gotten to it yet. So you can only find it by getting that back issue of the magazine. And then, as you mentioned, Ambush, then that concept we wanted to do something with. And so a feedback proposal was written up for something called Combat originally. And then that got good ratings, but then SPI folded. So we took that idea with us. We being me and Bob Ryer and Mark Herman and Eric Lee Smith. We took that idea to Victory Games and produced it there.
Love it. That's like a hit team right there. That's like an all-star board game team.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, so then just recently, in terms of my life in game design, I started thinking about Pandora again, and how taking a kind of a Eurogame approach in terms of components to that concept, where you could expand the narrative not only into a much larger book of passages, but also using cards, using larger maps that are encoded with some of the information and game logic, just really expanding the idea into a big, beautiful box of fun. So that's what we're doing with Away Team. Yeah, so the name is different because it is not a reprint of that game. It's inspired by some of the same mechanics, and we have an expanded writing team. I'm doing part of the writing, and then we have David Spangler and Douglas Sun also writing on the game. It's so big that we have on the team someone just managing the database of all of the passages and how they interrelate and how we can track them. And we already have artists working on the game, but it's big. It's going to be a big box, and I'll walk through that some. We're thinking it'll be coming out in 2024. So we've got all of 2023 to kind of, complete all the narratives, and then production will be and release would be in 2024.
Love it. We will be showing, for everybody watching, we will do a little screen share in a little bit, and John will walk us through that. So stay tuned, because we'll be showing some of that in a bit. Now, everything you're saying here is amazing. You're talking big box. You're talking large amounts of narrative branching stories. And it's interesting. One of the questions I was going to ask you was, when I was doing the details for the little blurb for our live, I first typed in, a remake, and then I got rid of that. And I said, inspired by the original game. Would you say it's more that original Pandora inspires this new Away Team, is kind of what you're saying? This is going to be bigger and grander, obviously.
Yes. I mean, inspired in that I just love the idea of interstellar exploration from kind of a scientific and an adventure perspective.
Yes.
I wouldn't call it like hard science.
Sure.
It's hard science, but with a real sense of wonder to it.
Right. The way
and also a sense of terror, sense of wonder and terror.
Got it. So yeah, I pictured it much like, of course, not that intellectual property or anything, but the original Star Trek, how they're popping down into these, planets, and there's the one hostile planet that looks beautiful, but then it's trying to kill the crew all the time. And so I know, at least when I look at it, I feel like it captures that kind of joyful exploration with those hints of danger and a little bit of randomness thrown in, and then obviously the directions. Is that kind of what is that if I were to picture it that way, am I close?
Yeah, I think that's a good direction. You're on the planet. You've got to use your wits. Did you bring the right stuff? So it's a cross between, I think, Star Trek and NASA Space Telescope and EC science fiction comics, if you know what I'm talking about. Just like the retro approach to science fiction and space exploration. And when looking back at the Pandora game in terms of theme and almost ethics, in that game you were going to planets and basically capturing alien life forms of all shapes and sizes and bringing them back to your ship, and that makes no sense in a way. Right. I mean, not only is it kind of invasive. It's when we imagine aliens coming to Earth and abducting us, that game is basically us doing the reverse. But also the notion that you should bring an alien life form onto your spaceship is crazy.
Right.
Not only could there be pathogens you don't know about and attributes of the creature you really don't understand, but how the hell would you keep it alive?
Right.
It's coming from a whole different atmosphere. Everything about it is different. You have no way of having what it takes to feed it, or to allow it to thrive. So that doesn't happen in this game. In this game, you're going down there and you're documenting and you're studying, and you may be taking samples like DNA because exo-DNA could be incredibly helpful to humanity, especially if humanity is kind of moving out into the stars. So there's that aspect to it. And there's also the notion that you may make contact with intelligent life and that you become a first contact opportunity for humanity. I'm not saying the extent to which that happens in the game, because that's going to be part of the fun of exploring, experiencing the game.
You bet.
Yeah, so it's taken a more benign and kind of the Star Trek philosophy of don't have an impact on something that could be negative. But so in the game you're discouraged from killing unless it's trying to kill you, then you can kill it. But otherwise you're really trying to gather information and document. So you have tools and equipment with you and bots that support that effort. Yeah.
I love it.
That's not to say the environment you're going to is benign. You can be in a lot of danger down there. Yeah.
Got it. Let me pull up a few. We've got some comments that have come in from viewers. For the viewers, I've got a little bit of lag today for some reason. So as I click things, I'm getting a little hesitation, but I'll go through folks that are here. So Mike D, hola Wargaming amigos. It's Neil here from Denver. Welcome, Neil. I actually grew up in Evergreen, Colorado, 45 minutes west up I-70 there, Neil, and I lived down in Littleton for years. So good to have you. I was
just in Denver in October at a wedding, and also we were delivering my son to school in Laramie, Wyoming.
Wonderful.
Just like 2 hours north of Denver. So
absolutely,
I was in the area a lot recently.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, love Denver. Mike here, the chief. This is very cool session. Thanks for setting this up and Colorado native. Well, thank you for tuning in. Again, John is very busy, so many thanks to John. Thank you, John, for coming on. We will be showing some screen information from GMT, and again, we'll talk more about how as soon as the away team hit the P500, it just skyrocketed. It is currently, I think I just looked, 1,522 pre-orders, which is great. So
yeah, that was really a surprise. I mean, we thought it would do well, but it's doing, as well or better than anything they ever put up on the P500, and it's still going. And maybe from this presentation, it'll get a bump as well.
Well, so, we would hope. Love it. Yeah. Mike says, JB, you are a rock star, sir. Rock star. And this is true.
Yeah, and I don't play any instruments either.
Me neither. So we've got Nano Rider 426. Yay. The John Butterfield. I concur. We'll go through some more folks here. Let's see. We've got David Warren. Hey there, Chief. And Mr. B.
Hi, David. Oh, and David's got a little Snoopy icon there. I like that.
Love it. We've got Nano Rider here just saying Voyages of Pandora is one of his or their favorite games. So
thank you.
How old were you when you designed that? I'm picturing young 20s.
So it came out in 1980 or 81. So I was 26.
Love it.
Yeah, it was about 26. Yeah.
Was that one of your, I know you've probably had a few games before that, but is that like one of your first 5 games released, would you say?
At SPI, I had already done the Armored Group South Quad, or developed Battles for the Ardennes. I did a little science fiction game called Stargate. I think Freedom in the Galaxy had already come out. Yes, Freedom in the Galaxy had come out by then.
Right.
So I was 6 or 7 games in at that point.
Look at that. Yeah, you were up and running.
Yeah.
So Nano Rider again, away team is now on his wish list. Move it into the pre-order, brother. Move it into the pre-order. Blow that pre-order up, and they'll move it way up on the art. It's probably already obviously gotten a lot of attention at GMT. This is behind the scenes, and if you don't want to or can't share any of this, that's fine. But when they have something that hits this big, do they tell you, hey, John, we're going to move this up into the art development phase a little earlier, or can you talk about that?
Well, that's a good question. Because this game has so much in it in terms of narrative, of writing, of content, and also of art. There's like over 150 different illustrated cards in the game, for example, that they had to, in order to put on the P500, they had to make a commitment. And they already made kind of a commitment to the game because, you know, they had to be prepared to make the investment if it you know, succeeded in the P500, which they thought it would. So we're already kind of running with those resources now.
Beautiful.
The 2 writers and additional writers and the artist. Yeah.
Love it. We have Mike D here. We'll get his, there we go. Mike D, P500 it as soon as he saw it posted. Love it. John, love it. Wonder and what is this? Wonder and Terror.
Yeah, I had mentioned that earlier, that the game will have wonder and terror. Yeah.
Got it. Original ST Chief mentioned will make a smash hit from what you're describing. Yes. Awesome. Let's see. I think we had a mention of Laramie here. Yep.
Oh, nice, Laramie. I'm looking to buy a retirement summer place up in Wyoming.
Ooh.
Okay.
And we went to high school in Littleton.
That's near Denver, right?
Yeah, it is. It's right on the, so I worked at Southwest Plaza Mall when I first moved down from Evergreen. I worked at this mall that was right there at Wadsworth and Bulls, Kipling area. And then Columbine High School, actually, where the big school shooting was just about a mile away from where I'd worked for 6 years. So yeah, lived right there in Columbine and fairly close to the mall for a long time. So great area. Let's see. Is there, I think that's our last one. So there we go. And he probably AHS. I don't know. Is that I don't know what that is. Rappel High School, maybe. There's so many changes. I moved in 95. So we'll take this one off here. Now we can go in. Do you want me to go ahead and share this other screen?
Yes. So what we're going to share here is the actual, you know, P500 preview page for the game. And it has some art samples on it. So I'll walk through kind of some of the concepts of the game, referring to some of these features here. So I'm actually going to skip ahead a bit to tell the story.
You bet.
I'm going to pause here. So so the game has some levels to it. There are the concept is that this is around 2200, and Pandora is that humanity's become aware that there is life out there. And so they've made the commitment to create a program to go study that and learn what we can, and also to be prepared for the possibility that there might be some kind of contact going on. So Pandora is chartered to go to kind of one star system at a time, and they have about 6 months to spend in the star system to explore it. And so the game will come with 7 different star system maps, and this is one of them. This is the kind of the first one, the simplest one. It's only got 4 places to visit. We're assuming here that a star system map only shows you those sites that appear to be of interest. There are other planets and things in the system, but they're not depicted because there's less reason to go there. So this on this board, you move your Pandora ship from site to site, and each site gives you some basic stats on the world, whether it's actually a planet or a moon. And in some star systems, you have several moons in orbit around a single planet. You have phenomena other than just planets and moons. There are some phenomena you don't even realize is there until you get there and start moving around. So the Pandora, you move your Pandora ship from planet to planet, doing exploration missions. And this is a sample of one star system. When you're playing the game, it would take you about, I don't know, 8 or 9 hours to completely explore a star system. So with 7 of them, you can kind of do the math in your head. And this is the simplest one. To play your way through the entire game of 7 star systems and kind of have the complete epic narrative that's like 80 or 90 hours of playtime. Now, having said that, the game can be played for that one massive narrative that kind of unfolds one time for you, but also each star system can be played over and over again on its own, getting different results each time. So the game is replayable. But the big narrative, the epic novel, so to speak, is experienced kind of once by playing through the 7 in a specific sequence. And it's not to say you're going to succeed and get to the end, because Pandora can fail and crew members can die in exploration. Something happens to Pandora. So the outcome may not always be the best for you, but you can play through the whole thing.
Love it.
So that's kind of the high level. And then when you get to a system, Pandora can do several things. Pandora can just drop a team down, or Pandora can take the time to survey the planet and learn more about it. Now, the time is the issue here. Pandora has 26 weeks in the system, and they have to spend the time wisely. So there's the game is played at a large time scale of weeks in a system. And then when you get to an environment, and here's a playtest map of an environment. This particular one is called Moonlit Veil. It's basically a large asteroid that has features on it. So this is going to be a very low gravity experience here. But an environment is depicted with areas anywhere from 7 to 13 areas in an environment. And so if you survey the world, you are shown the environment, and you can make a decision whether to go down to it and explore. And you also learn more by doing the survey from space. But then once you do decide to go down, the time scale shifts to hours, because you have your mission, your team only has a certain, a finite amount of resources of supply of air with them, especially if it's an airless world like this. So now the game shifts to being played in hours, and you're trying to make decisions to be most efficient with your time use while learning as much as you can. So that's what that track is on this board. And there will be about 25 of these different environs in the game, each with its own board.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so and you don't know what you'll get, in each time you go to a site. A site is a generic term for a planet or a moon or an asteroid or something like that. When you play the game, the repeating version, if you go to a particular site and you've been there before, it'll be a different environment. So it's never the same game if you're playing the repeatable version. Yes, so this is an environment you would explore. I could show you another one. I think there's a link to it. Yeah, so this is a more kind of that's big.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is a more hospitable environment on a larger world. It has it has a landscape, and this particular one also has like an elevated area where you can go up into the canopy of a jungle and kind of step out into the clouds. So that's a bit on the fantastic side.
Sure.
And then if you go out onto this lake over here, you can then submerge yourself and submerge the team and explore down below.
So that's what that is. That's that little line with the circle is actually your team then being able to submerge and explore underwater.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And there are environments that are almost entirely underwater. So they run the gamut. There's environments that are, like ice worlds with methane seas. There are environments that are, highly volcanic. There are environments that are subterranean. Yeah, so we're giving you everything here. All right, let me just go back. Right, okay. Now, I've been talking about the team. So in the game, the Pandora has a crew. Here's a typical crew card they start with a crew of 9, but it grows over time as Pandora succeeds going from system to system. They can upgrade their crew, not only in terms of the quality of individual crew members, but also adding new skills to the team. If, for example, if they do encounter an intelligent life form that can communicate, then the next time they go on a voyage, they add a linguist to their crew if they want to.
Very nice.
And then there's human crew, and there's also artificial intelligent crew called bots. This card here shows Archibot, which is a kind of an archive, a source of information robot that you can bring with you. But there's a robot that specializes in biology, that specializes in reconnaissance, one that specializes just in carrying everything, so that if you're in a heavy gravity environment, you can offload a lot of the stuff you have to carry to a bot who carries it for you. And then in addition, there's a card that represents a rover, a vehicle that the team can ride in if they're in environments that allow that. It's not a pressurized vehicle, though. So if you're in an environment where you can't breathe, you have to be wearing exosuits. There's 2 levels of suits. You can wear an exosuit which provides your oxygen and protection from the environment, or you can wear an armor rig, which provides that plus hardened protection against threats. Yeah, so the cards, so this is the physician, one of the crew members, and each card tells you what that crew member is good at. So she is good at investigating, at documenting, and at helping contain possible creature subjects. Contain doesn't mean take them away, but it means to hold them in place so we can study them for a while. And then this physician, inherently, the physician has certain specialties, helping to heal people and things like that. And she also has a particular knowledge in pathology.
And I imagine there's restrictions often on how many crew members you can bring down to the surface. So you have these interesting choices to make.
Yes. And I was just going to touch on that. So the physician, again, is one of initially 9 different crew members. You have the captain, the physician, the astrobiologist, the geochemist, the engineer, the exo ranger, your soldier. And you have to decide who to bring with you, because you can't bring everyone, especially if the gravity is heavier. Usually an away team consists of 3 or 4 people and maybe 2 bots, and then some other equipment you can carry. And you have to decide specifically what to bring from Pandora down to the surface. And there's a craft called the Cricket, which takes the team from Pandora down to the surface. So you can only load a certain amount into Cricket, and then based on the gravity. And then once Cricket lands, you choose whether you want to move around on foot or in the rover. If you decide to move in the rover, you can move a little faster and you can carry a little more, but still within the limits of the gravity. If you move on foot, you can only bring with you what your team can actually carry on their backs. So those are decisions you have to make at all those points.
Love it.
And the rover I mentioned, helps you move faster, but it's limited. There's terrain it can't go into. So sometimes you will do an expedition from the cricket around an environment on foot, and then you'll come back to the cricket, get the rover, and go places that are more distant, and then come back, but that are more navigable to the rover.
You are speaking my language.
Yeah. So as players play this in testing, they're constantly they're trying to maximize their team, and you are also looking at the environment you're in and what you're likely to encounter. If this is like a lush world with a lot of vegetation, and then you want your astrobiologist. There's another person who specializes in botany. You probably want to bring that person. But if it's a jagged world, maybe you want to bring your geochemist because of all the rock formations. So yeah, you have to make those choices, and sometimes they don't work out.
And then I imagine the crew, do they have like an experience level that gets better as you use them, or no?
Yes, absolutely they do. Every crew member has 4 levels. Our physician here is kind of at level, starts the game at level 2, although in the playtest card that's not shown.
Okay.
So it's assumed that she brings with her some experience, but some of your characters start at level 1, which is we also call noob. And sometimes things go badly if you have noobs with you. And then there's also there's a 3rd level and a 4th level. At the very start of the game in the first system, no one is better than this level 2 that the physician's at. But as crew survive and go to a new star system, there's a chance to upgrade them to the next level.
Beautiful.
And one of the advantages of leveling up is not only that these values you see increase, but you get more. This box here that says skill holds a skill cube, and a skill cube is something you can spend to overcome a hazard or to make a re-roll if you didn't like the way an encounter roll came out. And as a character increases in level, they gain more skill cube boxes, because those are expended. Let's say the physician had 2 skill cube boxes. She would start with 2 cubes and spend them at critical moments to overcome something in the mission.
I love it. It's like her experience. She's able to say, "Hey, hold on a second. I've treated this type of injury before," and boom.
Yeah, that's right. And then also on the crew card, there's damage boxes. A person can take 1 damage and still function. 2 damage, they're alive but can't function. And 3 damage, they're dead.
Wow.
So if she was assigned an exosuit, an armor rig, which I mentioned before, that absorbs 2 damage before the character starts taking any. So that can be very helpful. But armor rigs are heavy. So if you bring them, you can't bring as much of other things. The character cards also have these larger boxes, which are called port boxes for carrying. They're for carrying things if you're on foot. Your exosuit takes up one of those boxes. So if you're wearing an exosuit to protect you from the environment, you can't carry as much. An armor rig actually has the opposite effect. It is an articulated device. So if you're in an armor rig, you can actually carry more. Yeah.
So like these power assist suits that we're starting to
like the bad guy in the Avatar movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Or the suit that Sigourney Weaver wears in Aliens. At the end.
Awesome.
Yeah. So the robots are also a part of the crew. they have the same kind of ratings as the people. This is again Archibot, one of the robots, but they don't gain skill cubes. They don't, you know, they aren't. I guess I'm not really using the machine learning concept much here. Yeah, so they kind of stay the same. We're debating whether to have bots level up. That's actually still something we're talking about.
Interesting.
But right now they don't. They are a fixed asset. But they also take damage. They're a little more fragile than people. They once they take damage, they can't really do anything. Okay. They can still move, but they can't contribute their ratings. And then if they get too damaged, they can't do anything except be carried back for repair.
Interesting.
And robots can carry a little bit. He can carry something in all gravity. Oh, right. And you may have noticed that the port boxes are rated for gravity. So if the gravity's heavier than 1.5, that box doesn't exist on this card. So
perfect.
Gravity gets really heavy that people can't carry anything.
Perfect. I love
it. Makes it harder. Yeah. So as I said, there's going to be about 9 to 11 different types of crew members, and they can increase in skill over time. Now let's talk a little bit about the adventure itself. I'm going to go back to that environment map for a moment.
Yeah, because
let me open up that other one because it was so nice and big. Oh, no,
sure.
It's not. Well, that's weird.
Yeah, it was. It was huge. It was huge before.
I don't know. Well, anyway, you can see it a little bit.
Sure.
Yeah. So each board is separated into several areas, and the team lands in a given area. There's a landing site that's marked on the board, and that's where you go if you haven't done much surveying ahead of time. If you survey, a potentially better landing site will be revealed to you.
Okay.
Which may end up being better because it's safer and or because it puts you closer to interesting things. Yeah. So your team is in an area in the environment, and then their lander stays there as kind of a base. And then they move through the environment area by area. They pay a cost to cross a border. So the game is organized into actions. So at any given moment, the team can choose to move, can choose to explore if they haven't explored the area yet, can choose to stop, take a break to repair things or to heal people. When they're back in the landing area, they can choose to return to the Pandora. Over the course of the game, people can become terrified and refuse to do things. So you can take time to calm them down. Whoa, let's bring it down a notch. And so but that takes time. You're spending valuable hours to do that. So there's several different things you can spend your hours to do. The primary ones are to move and to explore, assuming nothing has gone wrong. So you spend hours to move from one area to another, and the hours are less if you're in the rover. However, the cost to move is shown in these little labels on the borders. But if a label has this crossed out circle, that means the rover can't cross that border. And there are other ones where it can cross, but it's hazardous to do so. So you have to make a choice there, whether you want to risk it or not. So when you enter an area, you will roll a die to see if anything happens. Often nothing happens in the course of the movement. Other times there's a bit of damage taken, or someone gets scared, or you have to draw an event card. It may tell you to draw an event card, and when you draw an event card, anything can happen. But then once you're in an area, you have the choice to explore. And when you explore, there's a paragraph number here, and every area has a label that tells you its terrain and gives you some other ratings for it. And it includes a passage number. And so if you choose to explore, you actually go look up that passage number in the book. And it's going to tell you, depending on what site you're on, what you find there, or it's going to tell you the beginning of a story of what you find, and you're going to read other passages to find out more about what happens, or it's going to tell you to draw an encounter card. An encounter card is a specific creature or phenomena or artifact or something that you've found, and the card will have, and I'll show you a sample of that. I'm going to
yeah. So I'm picturing, like, if it said draw encounter card 32, you know that that is some type of dangerous creature that they're now going to have to deal with.
Well, a creature, it might not be dangerous. It might be,
right.
It might be fascinating. So here's a sample card. So in this particular card, you were kind of wandering through like an area with high grass, a little bit marshy, and then the passage probably said something like, you see some objects floating towards you, and then draw encounter card E066. So you draw this card, and these things are depicted hovering menacingly in the air towards you. Balloon-like creatures trailing tentacles and tubes drift by. A few descend to drink from a stream. So this side of the card, that's all you know, right? Okay. And it lists the strategies. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to try to communicate with these things, document them, try to contain one of them, or run away, evade?
Yeah, those look scary to me.
Yeah.
I don't like the tentacles.
Right. So it sounds like you're leaning towards evade.
Yes.
Now, there's an exotic rating here, which is how weird these guys are. And your team's going to make a check if they can do they kind of know what this thing is? So there's values on your crew cards and so forth, and you make a check against that. And if you succeed with that check and the exotic rating affects it, you're going to get to turn this card over. And I'm not going to show it, but it gives you a lot more information about the creature. It gives you hints about which strategies are more difficult and which are simpler. So if you succeed in kind of an initial evaluation of the creature, you're going to be able to make a more informed decision about what to do. But if you don't succeed, you got to pick from just this information. Okay. And based on what you pick, communicate, document, contain, or evade, the back of the card includes this little matrix that tells you, well, if you succeed at communication, you're going to go to passage Y. If you get a mixed result, you're going to go to W, and if you fail, you're going to go to Z.
Well,
right? And the same thing is true if you choose document or contain or evade. So there's this whole matrix of possible outcomes that can happen based on your strategy and on the skills your team has in that strategy. If you have a lot of communication points, you're going to do better with that. If you have a lot of points in documentation analysis, you're going to do better at that. But so then from this encounter card and all the stuff you read on the back, you will eventually go back to the passage book to read the outcome of your encounter with this creature.
I love it. This sounds like a greatly expanded version of like the PC, the perception checks in Ambush.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because I love that in there, that you always had that tough thing in Ambush that if you put your more experienced folks forward kind of on point, they might spot the booby trap or they might get the advantage in the upcoming conflict, but you risked losing that person in Ambush. So it was like you cared about your people, because it's like, well, what do I do? But obviously this is layers deeper than that. And I love this idea that the card flips and now you've got a better angle on, hey, what we can do or what we should do.
Yeah. And many of the cards, not this one, but many of the cards have a surprise possibility. In this empty area here on the card, it might have a surprise rating. And that a high rating means you're more likely to be surprised. So it's assumed that these guys here are kind of moving slowly through the air, so they don't have a chance of surprising you. But there are many creatures or phenomena that do have a chance to surprise you. And if they surprise you, they're going to do something before you can even choose a strategy.
Wow.
And what that thing is depends on what passage the surprise result will lead you to if it achieves surprise. Then you may be forced into an attack or defense situation, or it surprised you, but it's actually a very skittish creature, and it just like vanishes because you didn't get to take action before its surprise.
Well, that's a nice angle too. So it's skittish, but because you didn't perceive it first, you lose the chance to kind of learn something about it as well.
Right. Now, in the game, as you go through an environment, some of these encounters you have will succeed. And if you succeed, you bank the encounter card, which means you're going to get some points for it when you complete your expedition. If you fail, the card goes back into the deck. Now, the deck is this stack of like 150 of these cards, and in order so that you can find them easily. We'll draw them easily when you're directed to, but it goes back into the deck. And then later on, if you manage to, let's say you come back to this environment because you didn't explore it fully, or you had to leave quickly because people were dying, then you can go back to that environment and try again. But there'll be a wrinkle when you encounter this creature a second time. Some of its attributes will be changed. I'm not going to say how that works, but
sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, you may think, oh, I've been here before, I know what all I'm going to find, but that's not necessarily the case.
This is great.
Well, let's see. So I have this list of things you do. I want to see. So you can survey, you choose people and bots for your team, you launch your cricket to the surface, you debark on foot or in the rover, you draw discovery tiles are minor discoveries. So you may go into an area and you don't get an encounter card like this, but you choose discovery tiles, which may give you discovery points for finding particular plants or lesser life forms or strange anomalies. So it's kind of like a whole lower level of exploration that's going on in the game, in addition to these kind of high drama moments that the encounter cards represent. And you have to, but as you go, you're expending supply. Time is passing, and you move this marker along. You move a marker along here, and you have a marker that marks you have like 40 supply total, and every hour cost you 1 supply. So you move your marker up, and when your marker hits 40, you're done. You got to go back to Pandora, and if you're not in the landing area, people just start dropping.
Wow.
So you got to be careful about that. And that's also true when you actually you can't carry all your supply with you. So you might carry 20 of your 40 supply, and that's with another marker. So you can explore a bit and then get back to the cricket and get your other 20 and go out again. So you might make a few forays into a given environment when you're down there, and you want to plan that out. Maybe once on foot, once with the rover. If you brought the rover, the rover is pretty heavy. So sometimes you're going to look at an environment and say, I'm just not going to bring it at all because I want to bring a couple more bots or a couple more people.
You are speaking my language. And then for the folks in the comments, I will come back and get your comments in a little bit. We're going to keep looking at what John's showing here for now.
I think that's a pretty good overview. When you leave an environment, you go back to the Pandora, all the stuff that you found and the dangers you encountered become converted into points that represent the overall success of your voyage.
Okay.
And then Pandora moves, and then you go back to spending time in terms of weeks, because it can take you like 3 weeks to move from one planet to another if it's in a distant part of the star system. So you're switching back from hourly expenditure to weekly expenditure. And if people were hurt in the trip or in an expedition, or equipment was damaged, or bots were damaged, they're going to go on that weekly time track sometime ahead. So they're not available for a few weeks, some of them. So then that limits what you can choose for your next mission for a while. Or do you wait? Oh, I really need the captain back.
Right.
Right. And she's like 2 weeks out from being able to participate again. So I'm going to do something else for 2 weeks and burn the time.
Oh my,
or no, I can't wait. I gotta, I've only got 4 weeks left in system, so I got to go now. Something like that. Yeah.
You've got as everyone already knows, you got a big hit on your hands here just from pre-orders, but this sounds delicious is what I'm going to say.
Well, we're having a lot of fun writing it, and it's strangely though, it's kind of difficult to test because we want to keep everything secret.
Sure.
Right. So and a tester can really experience something and make uninformed choices only once,
right?
For a given, encounter.
Right.
So we have to be very judicious in how we release pieces for testing. So we have 2 systems that are now completed and, fully completed and are being tested by people. And we'll add another system, every couple months until the whole thing. Yeah. So I'd love to answer some other questions.
Yeah. Let's take a look here. Some are statements, some are questions. We'll load this one up. NanoWriter, 7 star systems. Wow. Is that like Unsettled of the ISS Vanguard, which is, of course, a game from Awakened Realms. So, and I don't necessarily remember what their quote unsettled area means, but I think that means they have to be fully explored.
Well, or is Unsettled a different game? I
think could be.
It's possible they meant or instead of. But anyway, I know that ISS Vanguard is a game that has just come out or is just about to come out. And I remember when it was first announced, I read it and I thought, this sounds a little bit like Voyage of Pandora. So I am actually purposefully not looking at it.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I've pre-ordered that as well. It's cool thing is it's got like a binder that's your spaceship and there's a lot of cards, where you're loading in crew or crew's wounded, or you can throw them into training areas and then they'll improve so you've got like a spaceship bookbinder phase. And I won't go into that because you're completely staying away from it on purpose. But obviously you're going back to 1980, baby, where you had the very first Pandora.
Yeah, well, we can say that, but that in turn was inspired by other things. So it's a long chain of
absolutely
of inspiration and things building on other things.
Absolutely. So what I do love, what I'll mention on the star systems here that's really interesting is so you've got the weeks, and then once you're down exploring and you're in person, you're down to the hours. So I love this jump back and forth and how you're dealing with time and distance.
Yeah.
So let's see. We've got Mike D with another one here. Let's pull this up. And I haven't read through all of these until I pull them up. They're a little small on my screen. So how is interplanetary system travel handled? Near light speed spacecraft or Star Trek like warp drive or abstracted way, a way to focus on the aspects of the game you've described?
Yeah, I think you're referring to interstellar travel. So I would say it's more like your last statement, that it's a bit abstracted away. That is, you start in in the outskirts of a system and you're traveling using sublight drive, maybe fusion or something like that. That's getting you around the system fairly quickly. I mean, your travel time between planets or planetary systems within a star system is measured in terms of weeks, not months or years like it would be in current travel in our solar system. So you've got some pretty efficient spacecraft, but interstellar travel is abstracted. That is, you start at a star system's entry point, and then you have to get back to that entry point. Then your mission to that star system is over. It's assumed that you get back to Earth, you refit, you debrief, you do all the things you would do, and then you're sent out again on another voyage to the next star system. And in the campaign game, there will be things you learn in earlier systems that influence what you do in the later systems and how you approach your exploration in those later systems. But I'm not going to get into that.
Sure. Love that. So we'll bring this one up here as it loads. All right. So Heroic Logic, looking forward to this game, and then face red heart shape. So he's just he just can't wait. He's loving this whole
face
concept.
Red heart shape. Yeah, got it. Thank you.
So let's see. We've got all right. So Mike.
Artificial intelligent machine learning angle for bots is very intriguing. I actually worked in this area at LM Space, Lockheed Martin Space since 2017. That may be Lockheed Martin. NASA refers to it and what you're describing here as human robotic space exploration targeting Mars 2030s. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Very.
You know, I think, I mean, the robots are autonomous in the sense that there's no one controlling them, and you know, they definitely contribute. Yeah. As I said, we're not quite sure if we're going to have robots leveling up or not, but it's a fascinating topic, that's for sure.
Love it. All right, we're going to pull up here.
Does it have an app? The question is no. I mean, the answer is no. It does not have an app. It could. You know, this conversation, I was chatting with Harold Buchanan about this, and when I play board games, I want to keep it cardboard. You know, yeah, I'm not going for a hybrid on this one.
There you go. Excellent. I'll admit the only time, and it's not an app so much that I like, but when I play deck builders, I like some of the deck builders on my phone just because it does the shuffling. It will tag in all the little modifiers that I always forget in the deck builder. But yeah, the beauty of the board game, a big, huge part of it is GMT, and you know, is those bits and the moving of the pieces and the traveling kind of through that virtual space that's in the cardboard on your table.
Yeah, I should say cardboard, wood, and plastic.
There you go.
And now, no, I have no objection to playing board games virtually, you know, using Vassal or Tabletopia or all those things. But it's the notion of doing both, you know, playing the board game on your table and looking at an app while you're doing it. That mixture I'm not into.
Got it. And that's Mike D just responding that he figured that you weren't going to have an app. So
JB and company are smarter. I don't know if it's smarter. Just too much of a Luddite, I guess. I don't know.
Well, there you go. The physical. Whoops, my screen jumped and I clicked a button at the same time. We'll see what comes up here when I do that. Oh, maybe it's just he thinks the same. And we didn't really cover some. I mean, you talked a little bit about it, but he may have missed it. What are the physical components included with the game?
Yeah, I thought
he may have missed some.
Yeah, I missed that. So so it comes with a board, like 22 by 17 board, which is the place where you see what's everything Pandora holds. So it's a diagram or illustration of the Pandora ship, and then all the counters in the game that Pandora's carrying are there. And that's got the week's time track. It's got a place to put your star system map, so it's integrated into the display, and then also what you put into the cricket. If you pull stuff out of Pandora, you move it over to the cricket. So that's the main board. Then there's these environ maps, and there's going to be about 24 of them, but on two-sided displays, so 12 displays. We may bind that into a heavy cardstock spiral bound thing. So instead of shuffling through a bunch of separate boards, you flip through the book and turn to the right one. Then there's the star system maps, which there's 7 of those on 4 two-sided on 4 boards. There's a total of over 200 playing cards. Most of them are encounters. There's also the crew cards. There's event cards, but I think the count is 240 of those. There's a bunch of little cubes for skills and leadership. I mentioned the skill cubes. There's also leadership, leader cubes, command cubes, they're called. Sorry, that the captain and some of the senior crew can use. There's a rules book. There's going to be the passage book, which is going to be like 100 pages, spiral bound. There's a special training mission booklet, which it's self-contained. You can do a training mission without having to look at all the passages and everything, and the rules for doing that will be in one place to kind of learn the game without revealing its secrets. And then there's player aid cards, which summarize a lot of the rules. There'll be a few of those. There'll be a 10-sided die and a 6-sided specially printed die you roll when you're moving for those possible events. The 10-sided die is used when you're rolling for your encounter results. There'll be a draw bag to hold things. Often when you have to assign damage, sometimes you can choose who gets damaged. Other times you have to put your crew into a bag and draw the one who suffers the result. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So you never know if the captain's going to get it. Yeah. And then all that's going to be in a big 4-inch deep box. So
love it. Yeah. Love it. We've got Russ here has a great question coming in as this loads. So the game looks great. Instant backed on P500. Are there any Space Corp tie-ins? Maybe even a little bit of some little special little nods too, or anything?
That's an interesting question, because one of the tenets of Space Corp is that one of the main reasons for exploring space is to find exoDNA and the incredible benefits it could have for medicine and for humanity if we're expanding into space. So that theme carries into the game. Okay. The game doesn't follow through. It's not really about different corporations. Sure. It's really not specified or important. Well, I think the agency that's sending the Pandora ship is more kind of intergovernmental. I think it's a more unified Earth than the Earth in Space Corp. So it's not a direct tie-in, but it could be.
Yeah, maybe drop a couple Easter eggs in there with, that would be neat. I'll let you read this one off. It's a little bit bigger here if you want.
Question mark, modeling the very real and potentially harmful effects of in-system radiation storms on insufficiently protected crew, spacecraft. So that's where your hard science comes in. So actually, that's another difference between Space Corp and Voyage. I would say that Space Corp is more hard science, and this one, we're just going to assume they figured out how to protect themselves from stellar radiation in shielding their spacecraft, and that when you're on a site, just like on Earth, we're protected by the atmosphere. That's happening there. But that's why usually you're wearing a spacesuit of some kind when you're on a planet, but not exploring that as a main subject in the game.
Got it. My answer to have I tried High Frontier? I have not.
I've played High Frontier a few years ago. I enjoyed it. It is hard science. Not only hard in terms of accurate, but it's hard to play. And I'm not saying that negatively.
Sure.
The science and the application of it and the decision making in the game is fascinating and really needs to be studied. So I would just say that I'm not sure how I would relate High Frontier to what we're doing here.
Sure. We have yes, Interstellar. That I was trying to.
Interstellar, right? Yeah.
Let's see, and just a little quick comment. No app, so someone doesn't want it out there with you.
No batteries to burn.
There you go. Autonomy is a huge part of the HR space exploration architecture, NASA, LMS, infinite other space codes are all working on. I was an autonomy and AI systems engineer at Lockheed Martin. So you nailed that. Very good.
My father worked at Lockheed for several years in his later part of his life. Yeah.
Awesome.
He was working on the space shuttle program.
Love it. And then we have spiral bound book thingy for systems maps. Commander Mike says, yes, make it so, Mr. Butterfield.
Okay. All right. You're on the same side as Jason Carr's the director of development at GMT and working very closely on this game. And it was his suggestion. And I've come on board.
That is cool. I do like that idea that you're flipping through, and then with them being numbered, obviously it would be, oh, okay, probably about here, and there's my
and then
board.
You can fold it back. You fold it back on itself, so it's just the footprint of the map.
Love it.
Yeah,
that is a great idea. So just circling back, and then I know we're already having such a great conversation. We talked about going for 45 minutes. We're over a little bit, but
oh yeah, wow.
So let's see. I know we talked about what a perfect time, because I'd mentioned before we went live that we're in this space where solo gaming is hot. And I know you do have an option where two different folks, you can play 2-player, but they're each running their own like away team.
Yeah. So I should mention about that. So there is a 2-player version, and also that's where the bound book comes in, because in that case you would lay the book flat and you have the two environs. So Pandora is at a particular planet, but it's sending 2 away teams down, each to a different environment. And so you play semi-simultaneously. However, I can do things to you to cause you more difficulty, and you can do the same to me as we're exploring. You get a pool of markers and other assets that you can use to alter and affect the environment that the other person is playing. It's almost like Spirit Island, where the environment I'm exploring, you're almost like trying to defeat me by adding things to the environment to make it more difficult for me to survive. And I'm doing the same to you. But basically we're competing to, get the most glory,
Sure. But I love this combo of the solo's hot now. Space is really hot. The choose your own adventure, the writing, the experiencing, the exploration. I mean, the role-playing genre is it was there. I felt it in Ambush, where you literally start to care about these characters. And that definitely, I can see the same thing here. Even the cricket, I hadn't even really focused on the cricket. I even like this idea that's your landing module. Can it come to you if you really need help? Is that an option?
No.
Oh, so there's no autonomous. You can't say, cricket, move to us.
Well, I thought
I don't want to ruin anything.
That added rules.
Yes, I'm with you. I just pictured being in trouble.
And I think the notion is that most of the areas you're in aren't safe for the cricket to land.
Makes sense.
Right. There's only a couple places. But we toyed with that. Maybe they just beam down, and there's no landing craft. But I wanted to keep it a little more kind of technically manual.
Sure. And I love the idea that you've got to get yourself back to it. I can just picture me getting my team in over their head and saying, hey, autonomously, come to me.
Now, if the cricket gets destroyed or inoperable, which is possible, it's unlikely, but it's possible, there is this lifeboat that's sent down to you. But your mission is over, because you don't have the capability to visit any, actually land on any other worlds after that. So you got to go home.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll bring in a couple more, and then I'll respect your time, and we'll let you add anything else you want here. But Mike D, thanks for the cheat for the session. Fantastic stuff, John. As always, you're a gentleman and a scholar.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep. And thank you, Mike. And thanks, John, for coming on. I was so excited when I saw this news come out. let's see. I have not yet played a GMT game. Wow. Would you say this is a good entry into GMT games? Oh, there's so many. But
I would say it is a good entry, but I wouldn't wait for this to come out to get your first GMT game. I might recommend a couple others, and because this isn't going to be out for at least a year and a half. So there's well, you could try Space Corp, to be a little self-serving. That's a GMT game, and that can be played by 1 to 4 people. If you're into something more on the military side, I might recommend Combat Commander or. Yeah, there's so many. You just take a look at the GMT site. You'll see a lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah, tons of great stuff out there. But solo wise, I'm trying to think. Obviously, Space Corp. What else is out there? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I've got Charioteer that just showed up, and I've been playing even.
Oh, I've heard that's very good. I haven't played that.
Yeah, I've been playing 2-player games with my wife, and she likes racing games. And the best thing is, of course, you're making melds with your cards, and you've got 4 different. You can turn better into corners with certain cards. But what I love is we finished the first race, and she was like, "Let's play again." And then she said, "Hey, let's leave it set up on the table, and then I'd get home from work, and we could get in a quick chariot race." So cool. Yeah, it worked really good. So. Anybody out there that likes racing games, I mean, it is a racing game, and I do know I have some friends that are like, I don't like racing games, but what was done, the melding of the cards and the hand management really gets you inside the movement, and it moves quickly. It moves quickly, very fun, and I couldn't believe it handled 2. I'm probably going to get a review out on it before I get the group over here, because we couldn't get a group over until I think the 28th. But I'm going to play it with, I'm going to get several games in with 6 people as well. But very interesting game if folks like that. I have old Circus Maximus from Avalon Hills over here, but I haven't played that in probably 25 years. So maybe 30. What do I got here? Listening, but multitasking. Well, that's good, Santa Fe. You can always multitask. Let's see. It's great to see John.
Is the screen share still on?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, we can take that down. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. It's not up. I brought it.
Oh, that's all I meant. I didn't know if it was what our viewers were seeing or not.
Got it. Yeah, I did pull the screen share down. So it's if you wanted to show something more, I can pull it up.
No, it's just
okay. From Davis Beck, it's great to see John Butterfield on Bonding with Board Games and RPGs. Well, thanks, Davis.
It's great to be here. My second time, and I enjoy it both times.
We're getting some more thank yous, so they know we're going to be wrapping up here in a second. Yeah. So again, Nano Rider and I'll get it right here. Homeo Deus, I think, is
the Paths of Glory reprint. That's the World War I game by Ted Racer. That's a very good game. Yeah.
Yes.
I didn't know. I guess it was temporarily out of print. Skies Above Britain, I've heard good things about too. I haven't played that yet.
Awesome. All right. Well, John, anything else? Anything else you want to talk about at all? Anything on this game? Anything else? Very excited.
Well, the other thing I'm doing for GMT, which we spoke about last time, was Downfall, and I just give a brief update on that. That is almost wrapped up in the art department. The map encounters are done. They're working on the cards now. Mark Simonich and Charlie Kibler. And so we hope to get that published by the summertime. Wrap it up in the next month or so in terms of production.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been a great project to work on, and looking forward to that coming out. For those of you that don't know, it's a 2-map game on the end of World War II, originally designed by Chad Jensen, and he couldn't finish it, so we took it over and finished it up for him.
Absolutely. And now I'm always accused of this. Matter of fact, Wolfgang Klein, a designer out of Germany, had said he's accused of always throwing the rock forward. What is so neat, now I know you're not there, this game is, I think it's going to be a huge hit. And what kind of gets me excited, even though I haven't played it yet, is it seems like it could be very, very acceptable for you to say, you know what, that was so much fun. That was such a big hit. I'm going to make more of these away mission 2 or something. So I know we don't want to go into that. You're already tied up doing the first one, but this like ticks so many spots for me, checks off so many boxes that I'm really excited to see this. And you know, when that popped up on that P500, I was like, oh yes. So thank you for this brilliant design mind.
Well, the game definitely will support more using the same system. The storylines in the game some will resolve and some won't. So yeah. So there is an opening there, and we'd hope to also get other people involved in creating creating content for the system as it moves forward.
That is nice, because as a kid, 1983, I was definitely a module buyer. Silver Star, Purple Heart.
Oh, and Ambush, right.
That's right, Battle Hymn. So I mean, and as that new content, the new maps came out, I would get giddy. So beautiful. Well, John, thank you for coming on. Anytime you want to come on the show, I'd love to have you. I want to respect your time. So again, thank you for coming on the show.
Oh, well, thank you, Chief. And thanks everyone for watching and for your questions. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Yep. Thank you, everybody. Great questions. John, hang on the line here for a second. I'll go ahead and end the broadcast and we'll let things wind down a little bit here. And